A Ninja Mudra Guide cheat sheet that doesn't suck. Okay. Now, I mainly play Ninja on Final Fantasy XIV, but currently on a break, so I kind of want to see if they cheat sheet like probably like such a dumbified version of how it plays out. You got the main stuff, multi-target stuff, and extras. Outcome based on combo length plus last color. Okay. Yeah, people with ninjas, usually they suffer to understand that you don't really need to memorize combinations. You kind of just need to memorize the last bit of your mudra combination that you use. Repeater color is secret bunny hat. That, or if you have ping issues or generally are like you're used to a certain speed with your fingers whenever you press your mudras, but there's a ping issue or there's just some connectivity issues with it, with the service or stuff like that. Sometimes it happens where you accidentally press a button twice, or you press like 4 times, where the combination ends up being 4 times because you're pressing 10. 10 doesn't work, so you press it again, but then the game shows up as you pressing it twice, and then you already pretty much fuck it up. I've had it happen before. It generally sucks. I just hate to use bunny hat, so I leave it out and just wait it out. I know it's the bad thing, but I just no one gets to see the bunny hat. But honestly, if you have a bunny as a ninja, we'll just laugh and just think we've been there before. Don't worry about it. Does it have a savage or something? Then maybe we gotta talk with you about it. Nah. Only use 1+ yellow with enhanced pink button. Level 76 plus. Oh, to do your Hyosho. See, honestly, I would actually disagree with this one because the AoE combination, because you can use your pink button, I guess. It's been a while since I know the names. I think it's Kasatsu, but let's just, pink button, Kasatsu. If you combine it the same way you would do your AoE, the red one AoE over here. Well, the fucking names. You have Katon and I think Gyoko Mekyaku. I think the second one is the bigger impact. If you make sure you use Kasatsu before doing the AoE fire attack, you do get a bigger version, like much more potency and stuff like that. So usually when you do like dungeon pulls and stuff like that, you usually wait until the tank knows where he's gonna stand. So you place your Doton, and with that you slowly start working in Kasatsu with Gyoko, I'm assuming, because it's been a while. And then also your Carton afterwards, because then you also get damage from the dots from Doton as well. But no, I wouldn't... See, this is only realistically useful in actual, like, just raids and stuff like that. Obviously, if you're gonna do, like, dungeons and stuff, I would still recommend to use the pink button and your combination with Chi. Which is the blue one, to get the fire attack, because it just does way more. It has like, I don't know the exact potency numbers anymore, because like I said, I'm currently on a break. It's probably like 300, 350 more potency, but added to the amount of enemies that are there, you have like such an increase in damage that, yeah, definitely recommended. Don't just save it for the Hyosho. Do that only for raids and stuff like that if it's necessary, and just your main rotation, because the rotation in your raids and stuff like that usually don't account for AoE, because you rarely have to do AoE attacks in raids. Then your faster GCDs, yeah, that's pretty much makes sense. It doesn't matter which I'm assuming the gray ones is just any, like multiple combinations. Yeah, this makes sense. You usually have to start it out with this, and then obviously your trick attack ready. And I believe they don't actually... Oh, this dumbed down guide doesn't actually explain the Teni Yin attack to use 3 mudras in a row, because the blue one is also used to make sure your Bava Kakra, God forbid I forget all these names. Bava has an increased potency, like 100 or 200 increased potency, but nothing here is explaining. I think this is just purely mudra combinations, I guess. But I feel like this should have also explained how Teni Yin works, because your first attack will always be this range attack, and then based on the last 2 you have left, that's going to be the attack based on the last mudra combination. But yeah, I feel like they should have probably explained Teni Yin as well, because the moment they start using that ability, it's probably going to be just as confusing as the whole mudra combination, because they'll suddenly realize once you start off that ability that suddenly all mudras turn into a fucking range attack. and you're there thinking, okay, how does that even work? So it can be confusing, because obviously if you use the third one, which is your range, doesn't matter, 1, 2, and 3 are range. If you start with the third mudra, but 1 and 2 will have a different outcome than if you start with the first one. So yeah, because you could, for example, have that 10 is the range attack when you use Teni Yin. You could use Yin, which will be your sweeten, and they can end it on Chi with your Teni Yin, and you ended up with the dot ground attack. And I feel like people should have probably, or this person should have probably dumbed it down as well, because even I struggle to explain it. I kind of just understand it because of how I do it. It's just muscle memory at this point. So it's always very hard for me to dumb it down, and I currently don't have the game to give the example. But I feel like that is very important. Granted, if you just do raids and stuff like that, and it's purely like single target attacks, you will just have to do it from left to right if you have it like Teni Yin, because then you'll have basically your range attack, you'll have Raiten, and then it saves up for one of your other melee attacks or range attacks, depending on which one you want to use, which is your Raiju, and then end it with Suiten. And then in most cases, that Suiten is actually used for your Bava Kakra potency increase, while the first one is used for your trick attack. I hope that kind of explains it. But again, this should have probably been posted into the whole cheat sheet, because they're probably not going to understand when they have to use that ability. Granted, if you're going to do like hard content and stuff like that, you shouldn't be using this little guide here. This is probably just to get like a basic grasp of how it works. But yeah, then you have your AoE targeted, and then you have your dot attack that's just placed on the ground. And extra stuff that don't use these. Ranged and the bind useless. You know what? I do agree with that, because... and actually good to explain that you don't, without the pink button, you will get bind. It's especially annoying when you get to all the content. I feel like the whole range attack and the bind was probably just like an old relic from just around Reborn. But it's very annoying when you're so used to using your pink button and then either Ten or Chi with Yin to get your Hyosho, but it doesn't appear. You just suddenly realize it's a fucking bind attack, and you're just there thinking, fuck, I could have used this on my fucking Raiten, and I screwed it up. I've had this so often, especially when I go back to doing raids. It's honestly, it's annoying, but you get used to it. You get used to it after a while, but sometimes you'll still make the mistake. And this range attack, yeah, in most cases, it's not necessary. I sometimes do it if I run a do like a Palace of the Dead, and I want to go from like a big distance to have enough time to plan something else when I'm with other members. But usually it's just like so situational that you just 99.9% of the time you're not going to actually need it. Maybareya Fairy, who does not main ninja but got sick of the old ugly and confusing infographic that was the only result on Google. If I missed anything, then it probably wasn't that important in the first place. This whole cheat sheet, I guess, I don't know. I'm not exactly the biggest fan. I feel like it should have explained just a bit more. It also just doesn't really... the people will get confused with the whole imagery here. And I'm just going to assume it should have been better to just write any combination with a repeat that it's don't use the same combination twice. Which it's explained at the top side, but I feel like this whole repeater color, secret bunny hat, if you're going to mention this in the guide, just make sure to like put it in high caps. People need to know. It's the most important thing, because knowing that you can't repeat the combination or use the same mudra is already much better, because it enforces someone to just have to use the other button, and there will be an outcome no matter what. And at a certain degree, after using Ninja for so long, you'll get used to it. Granted, I've been playing for about... I'm almost hitting 4,000 hours on the game, sadly. Fucking hell, I could have done so much with that order, with the time I used on the game. And I can say for certainty that I have played Ninja the most. But yeah, this is just heavy situational, and I feel like it should have been explained a little bit better. But I'd like to read the comments a little bit on this. You also missed how doing the fire AoE with Kasatsu buffs it and makes it stronger AoE from a 350 potency AoE to 600. Okay, so it was 250 potency increase. But yeah, this is what I did mention at the start. Okay. Wait. Yeah, but from a learning perspective, it doesn't change anything because the mudra combination for Kato and Goku Mikyoku are the same, whereas the mudra combination for Raiten is different to Hyosho Ranyu. I mean, yeah, I get what he's trying to say. Like, the pink button, you'll have to end it on Jin, and you're used to being Raiten. You're used to Raiten being the highest DPS form for your mudras until a certain level, where Hyosho will be the highest DPS, but you have to use a different combination. So I guess it makes sense because the fire is still always the same. But people should know this in the cheat sheet, because I feel like if they just read this, they'll only use Kasatsu for the Hyosho combination, and I feel like that's just missing out on a massive potency burst. Only the final mudra in the sequence matters. Fuck, it's the skill floor, please. Yin. The best thing I need sprouting is to understand. Don't use Dota in a single target situation ever. Please tell everyone. Every time I used to, like I said, I currently don't play, but I usually play with my my friends or my partner. And every time I see a fucking Doton on the boss, I'm just there thinking, God damn it. Because as far as I know, if the boss was situationally in the same spot the whole time, whereas the dots tick all, it's still less potency than just a fully realized Raiten attack. And if you account for the boss having to move, yeah, it's done. The other thing that annoys me, I guess, is that tanks or mostly tanks actually in dungeons and stuff, they think the Doton is actually like some sort of AoE attack from the mobs, from the enemies, and they try and move away from it. And then you miss out on a lot of damage, and I don't feel great then. So, if I understood well, then the gray button is just mudra. Well, whatever the color, it just needs to end with specific mudra, right? I guess, well, then it's clear to me how to play ninja. Don't like melees, though. Given the overall response, I suppose I should have made that explicitly clear in the graphic, but yeah, I stay in the top left. Length plus ending determines the ability. Yeah. My kingdom for them to make bind useful in some way or just get rid of it. Most confusing sheet ever. I mained in several patches and could not read this without actually trying hard. Instead of a grey Kasatsu, you should do a half and half button showing the other two mudras, separated by a diagonal line. This would make it visually clear. Like this? Yes, this would have been at least slightly better. This is easier to understand. Yeah. The whole Kasatsu grayed out doesn't make any sense. But I did get the picture, so for me it was fine. Even though the spell depends on the number of mudras and the last act, this is the theory in practice. I find it easier to remember sequences with numbers like 1. Yeah, this is basically how I use it. So I have my mudras binded to 1, 2, and 3 because they're the main things I use. And I basically memorized that 3, 2, 1 is Huton, 1, 2 is Raiten, 2, 3 is Hyosho in this sense if I press Kasatsu, because Kasatsu I have on 4. So I press 4, then 2, 3. And you kind of remember that sequence, and then I rarely look at the colors. If anything, when I have to look at guides and stuff, I have to remind myself, okay, this is Ten, this is Chi, this is Yin, because I'm just used to pressing the button. So if it helps for people, just memorize numbers. Put Ten Chi Yin in order, Ten Chi Yin, 1, 2, 3, and just go at it. If you're used to having your main combos, your 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4 combinations on your 1, 2, 3 buttons on the keyboard, then I'd recommend to at least put it on Shift 1, 2, 3 or Control 1, 2, 3 and make sure you have that memorized. Because as far as I know, I have my combos on the Q, E, and R, because Q and E they're not camera movements for me. I use the legacy plus some modifications to make sure I get the best movement in the game. But I definitely don't put my combos for ninjas on 1, 2, 3, because I feel like having the mudras is way easier. The same with like dancer sequences and stuff like that. So I appreciate your attempt, but your layout is confusing while I intuitively understand. That's what I learned as 1, 2, 3 and 2, 1, 3 produce the same output. This image doesn't do a great job of explaining that for the people confused. Visually, every ninja player I know memorizes one pattern for each skill and uses that, even though there's 2 for everything. Those gray symbols really do not help to make this intuitive. I already know how to play ninja, and this made me second guess myself for a while before I understood what you meant. I feel like if people want to make a guide on the mudras, they should probably just remove the idea of having 2 combinations. You can choose between Qi and Yin and then finish it with 10 to make, for example, your carton. Because you end it on your 10, the first mudra. And most guides will explain to you that you can use Qi 10 or Jin 10 to use carton. But I would just advise people to just sort of remember, if you're doing it by 1, 2, 3, don't go 3, 1 to do your AoE attack. Just do 2, 1. It's much easier and it's easier to memorize. The same with Raiton. I press 1, 2. I don't go 3, 2 on my sequences with the mudras. It's much easier and it makes it less confusing. And I feel like that should have probably been explained better. I memorized via muscle memory, so these icons are still foreign to me. Like at this point, Raiton is just 1, 2. Yeah, basically, I struggled to... I needed to remind myself what the combinations were. Don't use a grayed out because that's so confusing. Just put it. Look, I'm not gonna. It explained a couple things, but it's missing a ton of information. That could have also been dumbed down. I'm not saying they should have skipped it to make it simplified, but like Teni Yin needs to be explained. The Kasatsu's grayed out isn't that good of an explanation. I feel like it was a good idea to explain that repeating colors or repeating numbers or sequences is a secret bunny hat. Do not, this last one, only use 1+ yellow with enhanced pink button. Do not use that. That is only used for raiding. If you're in a dungeon, use your fucking Mekiakus, because your tank and healer will appreciate you for fucking eliminating the enemies way faster. So that's my advice. But I think, if I have to say though, I think it's better to indeed do it with at least 3 enemies. I believe with 2 enemies on endgame content, you could use a counter argument. Yeah, but I could use Raiton on one mob and then Raiju on the other mob. But then it would be... You'd end up with like 1300 potency. I mean, I guess it almost ends up being the same. But yeah, with at least 3+ enemies, use your Gokka Mekiaku with Kasatsu. Because it also has the potency increase. So forget what I just said. Kasatsu has the potency increase. So listen. But yeah. This is my opinion, I guess.